Alvaro Carreras is a Real Madrid player, everyone. And right after the Club World Cup, Real Madrid immediately going, stealing the signing, statement of intent, immediately going after another midfielder. Today, we have a special guest to come break down Carreras, who followed him at Man United after he left our youth team system to go there. Joel, how are you?
I'm well, actually, pretty excited to be talking about one of my favorites, but also never got to play much first team football at United players. So pretty excited, and I think Real Madrid have gotten a great snap here, and I'm not surprised that they kept tabs with him even after he left because he is, or I found him at least as impressive as touted.
Yeah, so when Carrera signed, there was a pretty big split in the fan base. Like, some of the fan base is very excited because we have horrible left backs, just for context. Our left backs have been costing us. Like, Ferland Mendy was costing us. Alaba is a center back, and Fran Garcia, up till the Club World Cup, was not playing consistently. He was not executing consistently. Now, with the addition of Carreras, some fans were rushing to say he's the one. Others were rushing to actually be contrarians, and they were saying he's not that good. The left back market is kind of tight this summer, so we don't have a choice. We're going for him. That's why you're here, Joel, because when I saw the highlights and the different clips, I haven't seen crazy amounts of film. I just want to put it out there. What I saw was a very skilled player who is really press resistant, who understands how to escape press in different aspect areas of the pitch. So that's what I saw. Joel, how about we wind it back to wind back the clock a few years to when you first saw him? What did you think?
When I first saw Alvaro, I happened to watch Alvaro, the youth team, around 2020. We essentially had a player who always wanted to carry the ball, kind of had a sense, a sort of felt sense for pressure, how to drive against pressure. So a lot of his carrying isn't, some of it is about the manipulation, but not really nimble manipulation, but more so being able to read pressure and understand how another player, oh, this player's angled this way, so there might be an opening here. So his drives caught a lot of players off balance. He was also much bigger than most of his other youth players back then. So you'd have those extra squabbles that maybe he need not get into. And also on the defensive side, you had a lot of positional gaps of thinking maybe he could out muscle and not necessarily getting there. But all in all, a very nice blend and someone who you'd wonder, probably could play midfield, probably could play like DM or somewhere around back there, just something that gave him more space on the ball because he also did have a great strike on him. Sent a few crossfield passes and seemed to be the marshal or lead at the back line. Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I definitely see that in the clips. What I see is a player who, yeah, he understands the angles, like you said, like the momentum of where people's bodies are going. And yeah, he's not that nimble, but he's so press resistant for someone who's not that nimble. And that's usually a lot of like top players, like someone like maybe Danny Carvajal reminds me of, or even Dean Hoyson, who's huge. I mean, he's a great dribbler, but these guys are not like top 1 percentile dribblers at all. They just are really good at reading the game, and they are technically good enough to manipulate the ball when someone's pressing them. That's the thing we miss. Like when I was a player, I would see someone coming and I would try and fake him out, and they would always get to the ball before me. My feet weren't fast enough. But he has that speed of thought. So what I remember when he was at United, you guys wanted to keep him, and you specifically really wanted to keep him. United Arena was talking about how like this is the sort of player Real Madrid signed from us, or like we have a Benfica player, guys from Real Madrid. Like, don't take this for granted. What do you want to tell me about all that?
That was, I think, the extra context you're missing here is even also that around that time, United were in a serious left back crisis. I think Shaw had just gotten injured and gone back from injury. Malacia was just recovering from a year-long injury spell. So there was an opening to in the team. Fernandez had played some preseason games and maybe not done phenomenal, but played well enough. And the expectation was, okay, for sure, we're going to see him across the first couple of games of the season and see what he's able to do. but that didn't happen, and we got the news that he was going to be leaving. And I actually, great that you bring it up now. I just actually managed to pull up the Athletic article that actually captured some of the words. I think they had an interview with Fernandez and his agent, and it reads, well, Eric Ten Hag made clear that he would not feature. He says his manager, Eric Ten Hag, made it clear he would not feature on his plans. Not that Fernandez had given up on his United dream. And Fernandez told the Athletic, I sat down to talk, but as my agent said, it was complicated. In the end, it was done in the last minute. One message United give me that has gone loan, that's Ten Hag didn't count on me, and that I should continue to gain experience and rhythm, and we'll see what happens.
You said Fernandez. Who's Fernandez's agent?
Fernandez is so Alvaro Fernandez Carreras.
Oh.
He goes by. That's like so. At United, we used to typically call him Fernandez, the one in the middle. And now people call him Carreras.
Alvaro Carreras. It's so funny. Yeah. That's a cool illustration of how long you've been following him.
Yeah. So that was pretty much that. And so this was a player who had fallen in love with the culture or the team. Some of his other people who had played with Anthony Langa, he played with a lot. And those people were getting opportunities or were there. Some of them were just in and about, but he was one of the standouts. So I guess there was some expectation that for sure this player who was the outright standout, one of the standout players in the team or in that youth team would get a mark, especially with the crisis. So it was a bit jarring that he left, but I guess it kind of shows the caliber of player he was, that without any first team appearances, Benfica were like, yeah, we'll have him. Like, bring him over. We want him, actually. And I think there were other teams, if I'm not mistaken, Dortmund too, where I eyeing him around that time. And already there was like simmering thoughts about Real Madrid potentially coming back in.
Yeah, I remember that. And I watched him back then. My first thought was he's not nimble. So, like, the profile like that, you only sign him if he then checks every other box in top level football, which is defend well, press resistant, ideally multi-positional, which he looks kind of comfortable out of the left back area too, because he's so cerebral in the way he thinks about the game. And yeah, that it is funny. It is a funny full circle moment, because that was around the time I was first getting familiar with your work too, and now he's here. So why didn't Ten Hag give him a chance? I know Ten Hag is weird. Like, he's a weird guy. I mean, we know this, but like he got rid of McTominay and he kept his favorites. But why did Carreras not get any chance? Like, who was so you had Malacia as your left back and Luke Shaw? Was Luke Shaw healthy? What was going on?
Both were not healthy. I guess that's why this was staggering. So you had a situation where you had two left backs that were not healthy, and the manager essentially rather started the season with those two alien left backs, one of them or both of them at that time, which were not, I think there were no left backs in the team, I'm not mistaken. And I think the spin there was, oh, well, look, I don't have a left back to the team and as a defense. But the people who had been following Carreras were like, oh, well, we know there's this one person in the academy that could probably do something, bring him in. In terms of Ten Hag's specific preferences, I'm not sure to what extent his specific preferences for maybe a particular style of left back had to play there. I think there was some more non-football related reasons around why Carreras wasn't given an opportunity. And I say this because in 2022, 2021, I had actually likened Carreras to Shaw in sense of they had the same tendencies when they played. So both of them wanted to carry, maybe not go down to the byline, but wanted to play with their winger on their side, and had a penchant for those 1-2s in the middle of the pitch, like the give and goes. And they were neither of them were necessarily flying fullbacks. So not flying fullbacks. Yes, they could do things, but there were fullbacks who do things on the ball and be like, oh wow, I didn't expect my left back to be able to do that, or to be able to send that crossfield ping, or to be able to dink the ball over to another player. I thought he would have fit in perfectly. And you mentioned earlier about, well, when you're not nimble in that sense, you must be offering something else. And just one of the things I had written about him was, I think I said I likened his skill set to a Swiss Army knife, because he, even at the academy level, played left wing back, played center back sometimes, played left back, played DM, depending on what the game needed or what there were always record. There are a lot of records in youth football. So you found whenever those situations happen, whether injury, red card, trying to chase a lead, trying to recover, Carreras was someone who would get moved, who the coaches were comfortable moving around to fill in or consolidate because they trusted his intelligence and positional awareness to be able to cope. And I think that alone tells us something about the how he was perceived, but also things that he might be capable of that we've not even seen yet.
Yeah, totally. And also, just when you mentioned Luke Shaw, just such a throwback there. Like he had a good year, a resurgent year after, recovering from all his injuries when he was younger, and then he scores in that Euro final. Then he dies, and then Ten Hag just ships Carreras, doesn't play him. He just maybe brings Shaw back and lets him continue dying more. Kind of sad how that worked out. And yeah, it is interesting because he definitely is a different profile to Malacia. Malacia is more like Frank Garcia on our team, like the more up and down guy, right? And so you said you hadn't watched too much of him until you saw the Benfica clips, and like I said at the start of the show, a lot of people were saying that they don't think he'll make a big difference. What did you see with the Benfica clips? And I saw what you saw. Like just go watch the Atletico Madrid highlights. Like it's hard to have that level of composure just one off randomly. Like you don't composure isn't something that flashes itself that often that easily. And I mean I think the composure is real. I think a lot of people are underplaying his composure for no reason.
Yeah, and I agree on that point. I think what you find is what you find essentially is that there's an air of I deserve to be here, or what you will find there's an air of I deserve to be here. I have trust in my own ability that Carrera shows that rolls off into his game. So even under pressure, under the chaotic moments, he still has that not really nonchalance, but the I'm still going to try and I'm not going to like give up the ball. I'm not going to clear that ball away. I'm not going to avoid taking the ball up in difficult positions. I'm not going to avoid moving into infield when there's pressure. And in the Benfica clips, I saw those things still there. Only thing that was more important was now I kind of got that assurance or guarantee that, oh yeah, this actually scaled from academy level, and it wasn't necessarily because of how much better he was than the rest of the youth players or because he was much bigger. So that scaled directly over to the clips I saw in Benfica. The other things I did see were the strikes with his weak foot and overall just being more confident, taking on shots from there. Because he found himself in a lot of positions in field at United's academy, I always thought like, yeah, come on, take that shot. Take that shot. But he had this trademark curved ball that he dink it in just whoever the winger is at the far post. But there were spaces and times where he could take more shots. And he did start doing that at Preston. He did take a handful of a lot more shots in those instances. But the weak foot, cutting into your weak foot and taking a shot, not once. I saw like 5 clips or 6 clips of that. And that was pretty funny. Funny because that's something he is capable of. One thing we've missed in this is one reason I said, well, he also has played DM is because he has a strong right foot on him. And that right foot, you'd see it across not just the shots he takes, but some of the specific ways he evades pressure. He's more than comfortable shifting that ball over momentarily to his right foot to get by. And also when he gets the byline, when he gets infield, he uses his right foot both for releases to control the ball and to evade pressure in a way that shows that it's not just a one-off. Maybe he can shoot with his right foot. This player is pretty capable with his right foot. For a left back specifically, for a left-footed player, he's pretty capable with right foot. And I saw a lot more chances in those clips where he took that and used it to his own advantage. Mostly like guys of, well, I can also do this.
Pretty good. Yeah. Totally. That makes sense. I didn't point that out, but that definitely stands out in the press resistance for sure, like you said. And maybe that's why he's so comfortable shifting between left center back, left back. He's played all the positions. He's a little ambidextrous. You need that in the modern game, especially when you're playing against a block. If your left back can go and just cut inside to his weak foot and arrow it into the corner, that's just different level. I think I forget if Guardiola's goal, I've kind of blanked it out when he scored against us, if that was weak foot, because he cut in and scored against us when we beat them a year ago, but when they made it 3-3. at the Bernabeu. So yeah, it is a big advantage because it's just defenses don't want to have to cover everything. They want to give something up, and if you give this guy space, he'll take advantage of it. That's all super fascinating. Now, I wish I had that much more to add about Carreras. Do you have any other miscellaneous thoughts about it you'd like to talk about?
Before he went to Preston, I think the big thing I was wanting to see, and I put it out, was his positioning on defense. Well, positioning is very broad to say, but specifically what you found is when it was time to make jumps for the back line to make jumps to pressure, Carreras found himself getting caught out with lots of those like instances of, well, you have some gap with your forward, they've just received the ball. Do you retreat to the back line? Do you jump in that moment? So occasionally he found himself getting burnt in those moments, specifically because maybe he underestimated how quickly that person could turn. He thought he could push the person out of, like push the person or body check the person. So he kept on getting caught in those exact moments where maybe play is switching or the backline is moving up or moving back down, and there's a player that's just receiving the ball first instance right in front of him or around him. At Preston, he did much better there, but also at Preston, he had a great manager there who spoke well about him, but also flagged that as a, oh yeah, I love him, he's doing great, but we need him to kind of just develop a better sense for those particular moments when he's up against another player, not necessarily one-on-ones, but I mean one-on-ones where it could be one-on-one depending on what he did. Like it could be one-on-one. If he stepped back, it could be one-on-one. If he jumped up, the person probably let the ball go and maybe play 1-2. On the one-on-ones themselves, he did well. So the times where he did step back, he did well and coped, like great in one-on-ones, gets down pretty quickly. He's able to poke his foot in. But in the moments where he didn't allow it to be one-on-ones, like maybe try to jump, that's, we spoke earlier about that sense of that like body intuition he has with the other person's flow that he has when he's in control of the ball. That does not directly translate to when he's not with the ball. He doesn't have that same intuitive feel for the other player's positioning or guys when he's not with the ball. And that's something I've not been able to catch up or see how much, what extent he's developed or grown from that in that area at Benfica. But at Preston, he did make good progress with that. But also because it was something that the coach had outrightly marked off, I guarantee and I'm pretty certain that it was something he worked on. So pretty optimistic there.
Yeah, and so just recapping where he's been, because some of you might not know and missed when he was at Preston. So he was at Real Madrid from 2017 to 20. We got him from Deportivo. Then Man United 2020 to 2022, the 2 years around the pandemic, and then Man United senior team 2022 to 2024, in which he was loaned out to Preston 22-23, Granada 13 appearances 23-24, and then Benfica on loan, and then I guess bought after that by Benfica. So you guys get 10 million from this signing, which you can use to then go snap up one of our youth team players who will eventually leave, and then we'll go snap him up when we need him again. But how much was Carreras? How much did that annoy you? Like, I know you don't love Man United, and to be honest, it sounds like, I don't know how the story gets worse every year. Like, it's not easy. It's impressive. I thought Ten Hag was like the new lowest of the lows, and now it's like, who knows where Amorim is in 18 months. But the how's it going over there? Do you even pay attention to the next Carreras anymore out there, or you just resign to them leaving?
That's interesting because I had queried my Twitter to find other things, and I actually missed a key point. What actually happened was not only we had both left backs out at that time. Not only did Ten Hag ask Fernandez or inform Fernandez that it wasn't for the plans, he then loaned in a left back. He loaned in Reguilon, and I think I just erased that from my memory. I forgot. He actually loaned in Reguilon. So we had no left backs that were fit at all, like zero left backs in the team. Asked Alvarez to go out and loaned in Reguilon. And my exact comment was that was around the same window where Elanga also left. Elanga is now going to Newcastle, 15 million deal after doing well at Nottingham Forest. James Garner, another one, also was loaned out or sold that same window. And I had tweeted, I was like, Garner out, Sabitzer and Amrabat in, Alvarez out, Regulon in, Elanga out, Vergos in. Three talented academy players replaced by the managers with the managers part-timers who won't be signed but come the end of it. Ten Hag's Manchester United. That was the tweet I made. And now I'm looking back to, I didn't even realize that was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it didn't even take 2 years for all of those things to resolve, like for all of those things to resolve as I thought they would. It by the next year, it was pretty obvious the mistakes that had been made, or specifically that those players that were brought in were not players that were going to last. And those players I all mentioned, what they share in common with Carreras, and I'll have to fact check that, is I think these players all won. We have a best under 23 player, or Jimmy, I forgot the name of the award, Jimmy Murphy Young Player of the Year at Manchester United. These three players, I think, were all recipients of that award, and three of them were sent out in the same window that United actually needed cushioning the first team. These were three players who, at some point in the past 3 to 4 years, they were the standout talents in the academy, and all of them were shipped out in one summer. So
all of that only to end up cutting the canteen back and giving
yeah,
them shitty food and taking away the Man United canteen, man. But that's crazy.
yeah,
That's funny because Regulon is like really like a poor man's Fran Garcia to me. Like he's like the bad version of that. And so you guys bring in. It's funny that like we're bringing Carreras to bolster Fran Garcia. You guys are like, nah, we don't want him, and you bring in like our reject in the middle of his career to bolster your position.
yeah.
That's really sad. Yeah, I would definitely be very sad as an observer. I would definitely not want to watch too much United. It's just funny because like you don't get too many people. You get people watching United all the time, but I remember when the Regulon thing was happening and we were tweeting all this, and I was just like, because I was just the whole time I'm like, all this sounds good, but I feel like Carreras is someone who it's not the end of the world. We like, oh, I see a good player, but I see the brand name carrying him too far, and that's why. And I think that's where a lot of Real Madrid fans are now too, where they're like, hey, he was our ex player, we're bringing him back. It sounds too good to be true, but it really is. Like he was good, he was real. You were watching him and you liked him the whole time. The other thing is like, yeah, imagine how good your team would be with Elanga, McTominay, Carreras, all in that team right now. That would be so good.
But for the Real Madrid fans who are skeptical, I can actually share some more context about around how we actually got Carreras. And remember, if you don't know, Carreras was got in the same cycle that we got Garnacho from Atletico Madrid, and it was part of a concerted effort around that time from then head of director of development, I think John Murto, and they had actually gone in, and I think the agenda for that year, I think that was the last year that they were able to get in foreign players, like non-EU players. I think there was some EU criteria coming in. So they went all out trying to figure out which elite academy talents could they snap from other clubs and bring in. So people who were even slightly unsettled, or even they were pretty much desperate, and actually flew over to go speak to these players directly. So you had Myrtle and lots of the other execs and leads of the academies going over and coming back with Garnacho at that time. I think maybe this was a 17-year-old or 16-year-old no, like a 15-year-old Garnacho probably, and also Carreras in the same 2-week or 3-week window. So Carreras came in a, oh, we've seen you and you're super impressive, but also please like trust us that we can give you a similar base or setup to thrive. And that was fascinating because these two players came in and they couldn't speak English. They had no context. I think some of their family might have come over, but for most parts, they were almost like boarding school kids who had just gone for a study abroad. And they came in and hit the ground running. They pretty much both hit the ground running. Carreras in particular hit the ground running and got into the defense, like got into the back line and usurped the two left backs we had at the club at that time, I think at U18. And I think by the end of that year, he was already playing for the U23s. So this was a player who came in already talented. This United's academy may not be as maybe prolific as it was, but they're always the top players at every moment are always pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
And Carreras came in and was one of the top players despite just coming in. So if you benchmarked him against the other top players, you could tell, oh yeah, this is the guy this is the champ of the back line. So he came in still pretty well, and a lot of that him leaving at the time he left or the manner he left was down to United's own desperation and the EU constraints that were coming in, which they were trying to beat and evade.
Oh, that makes sense. And I guess that's a great way to segue into a little Man United discussion. And there's some interesting things. Garnacho, Rashford, might ring a bell. Barcelona, some stuff going on. But I want to start with Garnacho. So yeah, you picked him up from Atletico. You have that. What's your take on the whole fight? Like, we just got to hear it. Like on camera, what happened? What went down between Rashford and Garnacho? Rashford hasn't been the same since his back injury. And then after we get to the fight, I want to talk about the proposed deal that Barcelona have for Rashford, but that'll be last.
I believe it or not, I actually do not know anything about any of these two things, like these two players or what has been brewing up. I the take I did had and I shared was something about, I think I tweeted a couple of days ago, a few days ago, something about I don't know what's happening with Rashford, but the fact that the best, like the club is chasing him out, the best academy talent since, I don't know, since Fergie left. We've not had anyone else who are prominent. Rashford is and almost 150 goals, or just over 150 goals for United. And the fact that we're heading him out, we're treating him out in the way it's panning out is kind of in line with the culture or maybe lack thereof at the club since Fergie left. Just something about the fact that this is your only think about the academy talents that have, even people would say the case of, well, he's done this and this. Well, what did McTominay do? What's trouble did McTominay cause? But I'd say pretty confident that McTominay got even more heat or as much heat and hate as Rashford is now for, and McTominay's issue for always being available, despite like always being available and in the heat of it, despite the terrible games like that United played. The fact that he was always available and involved and able to play was the reason people did not like him, and it was from the academy. So pretty much in line. And I guess the case there beyond everything else, yes, we have the injury, but in a culture like that, in a toxic space like that, where the academy players do not get as much grace as new players that come in on the manager's whims, I don't see how it is possible for any player there to thrive, like any player in that context to thrive. And
Yeah.
that's where you find that by the time these players leave, it comes off as, oh yeah, this new place works better for them. No, it's not so much that these players are players that have already been put through the ringer in the academy, made the almost impossible jump of getting promoted from that academy to first team, becoming regulars. There is no jump that is as crazy as that jump which they already made. What really is happening is they are now not getting stifled by the pressure online and in person from the crowds who boo, and that really is the big thing. And so with Rashford's case, it is pretty much probably for his own sake, he needs, and maybe it has been the case for a couple of years, that the escape from just that community or just getting a new lease somewhere else that is not close to the fans, that is not close to the online hate and culture, would probably do him much better in the same way it had done for McTominay. And Garnacho's case is slightly different because Garnacho actually did get passes from the United crowd, the Old Trafford crowd. And when I say got passes, something around his similarity or sense of wanting to be associated with Ronaldo around the time when Ronaldo was there earned him a lot of grace, actually. A lot of like, he had chance.
Hey, he trolled Pedri. He trolled Pedri. I'll never forget. I started messing with him after that.
Yeah, Garnacho had chance, like Viva Garnacho chance, that were not necessarily because he had done anything, but just, well, new young talents coming up that is actually not local. That's very important. It's not local, got him from Spain, and also likes to hang around with Ronaldo and like we could do does Ronaldo celebrations. So Garnacho got a lot of you'd have games in the same game. Garnacho would be like chanted, or like you'd be having a terrible game and they're chanting for him, encouraging, which is great. And then maybe Rashford would come on and Rashford would start getting booed. Or Rashford would be already be playing, getting booed as walking off, or people are asking the coach, or like bring on Garnacho, Viva Garnacho. And there was lots of tension happening there that those players themselves were playing around that may not definitely translate to the pitch, but maybe might not be obvious for the fan who's just seeing the scoreline or who is kind of detached. If you actually kept a close eye on what the news carried and what the fans said and what was happening in the stadium, it was pretty clear that there was a gap or chasm being built between these two players. And now I guess it's pretty ironic or pretty indicative of how rotten the culture is, and that now both of them who they were trying to pit against each other are on their way out of the club.
You're saying chasm how they were perceived by the fans?
Yeah, chasm how they perceive, but also even in terms of the fans seem to be staking that, like the fans seem to be staking a divide as though it was Garnacho versus Rashford. And there's no, but we should never, Rashford should, like, okay, I'll give you a good thing. At some point, Rashford got moved over from the left wing to right wing so that Garnacho could play left wing.
Hey, that just reminds me of what's been happening at Real Madrid for the last year. So let's see. I don't know why. That sounds eerily similar to what's going on over here. So let's talk about
so there are things happening there, or Garnacho starts on the right wing, and people are like, yeah, like what's Rashford doing on the left wing all game? Move Garnacho over, then maybe Garnacho scores a goal, and people like, yeah, I see Garnacho. Rashford should never play left wing again when Garnacho is on the pitch. And the manager actually sitting in the manager who was eating some of this up and would, yeah. So between the manager and the fans, it was pretty much okay, let's see who's going to play. You put on lineup and nobody knows who's playing left wing or right wing in the game. It's kind of like some games Rashford would be asked to hold the touchline on the right wing, like Rashford, Marcus Rashford, MBE, to hold the touchline on the right wing.
You know what's funny? That in some ways is a microcosm of the like Vinny Mbappe issue over here, in that Rashford is like Mbappe, where he's very talented, but he's not a dribbler anymore. Even like, if you could say that about Mbappe, Rashford has maybe never been a dribbler for going there relative to like great dribblers, and he's always been reliant on his ball striking. Like his best seasons, he's a differential finisher, not just like gets into good positions, but like from not so great positions, he can sling it. And so Garnacho comes in, and you have moments where Rashford with a back injury is being played on the left in systems that required him to be a creator. And honestly, Garnacho is going to look better 9 out of 10 times in that role, right? Like, and then you have this weird thing where Rashford can't play striker; he has to play off the right, and so you have the best off-ball mover being asked to play in an uncomfortable role for him. That's exactly what's happening over here. Kylian should be on the right, really, in my opinion. Like, that's what this team needs: an inside right forward Kylian who's willing to make the lateral runs. With that being said, I somewhat sympathize with the whole Rashford. Like, it's bizarre because I feel like Amorim did not chase him out for no reason, in my opinion. Like, I think there was a reasoning behind that incident. Like, I think he really saw a moment where if he didn't exert his authority, everything could fall apart. And on top of that, my understanding is Rashford, since his back injury, he's kind of like a good example is Grealish. Like, you have these players who get on really big contracts where it's okay if you deliver 3 or 4 out of the 5-6 years on the deal, let's say 60-70%. But if you're only delivering like 1 or 2 years and then you stop delivering for a period, like Rashford or Grealish after the treble, where he's just useless, then your fans start like hating on everything like you do off the pitch. And Rashford, I don't mean to stereotype him. Like, English media has gone after him off the pitch for different reasons, but it definitely feels like he's pretty much not delivered since that one big season he had. Right? When was it? Was it Ten Hag's first year when he was really good?
I think Madam Ten Hag's first year or the season before. Yeah, Ten Hag's the season before he was really good. That was the season, the last Oli season where him, Martial, and Greenwood, I think, scored 100 goals or something like that. Contributed to 100 goals between them. So that was a pretty good season. And I think Ten Hag came into a renewal, if I'm not mistaken. Ten Hag might have come into it, and I'm mixing the timelines up, but I think Ten Hag came halfway through the next season, but also into a renewal already in play or already in the negotiations.
Yeah, I see he had just putting out the stats. So and I just want to ask this because we want to tie it into the Barcelona deal. But basically he's at 20 goals and 13 assists, 20 without penalties in 2020-21, and then 21-22 he gets hurt, he falls off. Then Ten Hag's first year, he has 29 goals and 9 assists.
Oh, I missed that actually. I missed that.
23, yeah. So 20 and 13, and then 29 and 9. So that's why. Okay, I get it. It's like we bring these coaches, he's finally getting these 20 goal seasons you wanted from your academy talent. Because by the way, I just remember even back in the day, like when Mbappe broke out, people would be like, "Hey, Man United fans, like that's who you think Rashford is in your analytics." By the way, because like the analytics showed he's good. He never looked like a superstar analytically, like from a young age, in my opinion. Just as someone, as a team, following a team in the business of only recruiting superstars, as you know, as our scouting department doesn't mess around. Rashford was not Real Madrid certified for me, like from a young age. It's like I wouldn't have him here. So what are they hyping him for? Like he was good, but if I pull up the XG, yeah, like he's at fine. I mean, it's a good half expected goal plus. At 19, he's at 0.5 XG plus XAG. It's just we had a Vinny who was doing that while dribbling, so it's like okay, like he was never dribbling. But my point is with Rashford, between the injuries, it's clear he's playing for his next contract. I think that much is obvious. Like Aston Villa, he went off. He looked really good. Gave PSG some issues, along with my boy Asensio. But the Barcelona deal is rumored to be risky. It's like a loan to Barcelona, I'm very scared. It's like, oh my God, you add Marcus Rashford to Hansi Flick's machine. Flick is just going to have him running the channels. He's going to get balls. He's going to ball strike the crap out of it. He's going to take long shots. He's going to score them. I already see him having like a ridiculous impact sub-season, if not like, and playing some big minutes. Like Flick is good at attacking coaching. He's amazing at platforming guys like him or Nabry's. Like he's like that Nabry mold of the inside forward who doesn't dribble. But I would say that the deal is rumored to be a loan with a forced option to buy. Oh my God, I feel scared for Barcelona there because just something tells me he gets hurt again. Like this guy, in my opinion, that 350K a week contract was so inflated for a player of his caliber. And I think that's the whole Man United culture where, you know, if a player plays well, you overvalue him because that's what you have to do to keep him. If a player is bad or okay or not perfect, you ruin his career or you get him, you spit him out like Carreras or Elanga. So what do you think of a loan with a forced option to buy? I think that's a big win for you guys. Big win.
First of all, I'd like to talk about some more intricacies about that deal, but also what was happening around. So something that was happening around was that deal also came alongside the consecutive windows of United making, frankly, shit transfers. So I think some of the complications there were the players that were signed around that time wanted a commitment to guarantee we're going to invest in the team. Like we need better players around us. And so a lot of the contract negotiations were, yeah, we're going to give you big money, but also we guarantee you we're going to give you big money, but also trust us, we're going to invest in the team. We're going to get better players around you. So that did happen. They did invest in the team, but in not so great players. If the numbers or the timings you're telling me are correct or accurate, then I think am I wrong in boxing that in as Anthony was signed in the season after Rashford got his new contract? Could you check that what I'm talking?
Yeah, let me check.
Yeah, but you have weird. Anthony was signed for 100 million season after maybe the season. Now, someone in the chat, one of the commenters or the people in the chat is going to correct me, but I suspect that this was the case.
I believe actually it might have been the same summer.
The same.
It looks like Rashford signed it 2023 was his extension.
Okay.
And after that 29 goal season.
Yep.
And then Anthony signed. No. So Rashford extended the year after.
Okay, Rashford was the year after.
So they signed Anthony, and then Rashford goes off for 29 and 9, and then they extend.
Yep. And I guess my case there is there are ways in which the United team too were not. You sign a player for 100 million, and he's not even better than the what. Like he's not even. You sign a player for 100 million. You can see ways in which they almost there's no intent. You're not incentivizing the players that are already there and good to get better. I guess that was the big thing for me, and it's
Going
something.
back to that,
I think I lost you for a bit. Yeah, I was just saying how there's just that subtle element of you're signing players or giving big contracts, but not incentivizing around how you're building the team. You think about that feeling of you get a big fast contract, they say, oh, we're bringing this new 100 million man, and you think, oh, wow, like that's companies, I need to step up. And this player ends up being worse than one of the academy players that you've been playing with, like visibly worse in training and in the game. Like, oh yeah, man, my guy Alanga is better than this dude. And you keep quiet and just have to like there are ways in which small things of cumulative signing worse players than players who are worse or not as capable as players who are already there rolls off depending on the kinds of motivations that players have.
no,
With
it kills it, dude. Imagine
yeah,
you're getting paid and you're like, they give this guy more money than me to come
yep,
and do this shit. Like, you just
yep.
lose your motivation.
And I guess you might now say, oh, well, but not all players take that. Well, I'll give you Bruno is kind of, I think we just have to put that out. Bruno is kind of insane in that sense of a player like Bruno that comes off as these players are both happy. But Bruno, that comes off as, oh, now I need to carry the team some more. Bruno has that sense of patriotism to the cause that goes beyond that, where for him, in that entire team, he might be the only player in that team who would have seen that, and his response is, "Now I need to carry the team even more." Like, oh man, I need to even step up because these players are not good. And that pressure you see it on the pitch of maybe now he's taking more crazy shots that he shouldn't have otherwise been taking, or he's attempting more things. For some other players who are also good, it is oh damn. So what's the point? Like, if I'm not even going to get pressurized from these news, like if these new signings are almost guaranteed going to be worse than me, what's the point? Like, and I suppose you might take that as a shot at Rashford's character, but it maybe need not be. It's just the fundamental fact that yes, not all players are going to be just innately motivated like that, but you don't even know, you don't perceive that because for most parts, the players who are getting paid 350k are getting paid 350k in a team where everyone else is striving towards something. Think about, I think Liverpool is a good example. The handful of players they're getting paid like 300 or 325k, but they're getting paid those big amounts around. That every summer or even in the middle of the season, you literally another player who's in the same pay range can have a blowout season and no one even remembers that you also had a great season, but someone had an even better season. That was not happening at Manchester United. No one had the potential or possibility of outshining a Rashford who was at his best. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I think that stake was important, and in a broader sense, Rashford played better when he had better players and competition around. When Martial was hitting it, when Green was hitting it, when Pogba was there, and I feel like that translates neatly. I'm going to have to watch him a bit more to see how his body is coping in more recent games. I've not been able to catch any United game since Ten Hag was here last year, so I don't know. Oh yeah, that's all just at that point. Yeah, Sancho was also getting. Sancho again is another player who kind of falls in line with the Anthony thing of you also bring Sancho big money contracts, and from the off the bat, it's pretty
oh,
clear that Rashford is way like. So I'm like, damn. So you spend money on this other player, and Rashford again is better. Like this is another player Rashford is better than. And even the United fans at around that time had some posits or reference or thinking, oh, Sancho is going to take over from left wing from Rashford. You had analysts going out and putting their chest, analysts going out and putting their chest against that, oh, yeah, Rashford, that he will not be surprised by half season Sancho is taking over. And all of these players that were attempting to get pitted against Rashford were literally just getting plucked out of the sky because they were just not good enough. Um, Regarding the Barcelona move, I think again, I can't make any comments because the point you make about Rashford's back injury, which he never got to heal from, is pretty important, and that ended up being a big part of like had a lot of role of effect in how he actually played or the kind of game he wants to play, how that affected that a lot. And I need to actually go and look at how I hope he's had it. It depends if he's had a great summer and
It looks like he's posting pics in the gym. His agent is trying to get him to Barcelona. He's praying
yeah.
to God. He knows this is his chance.
If he's done some work this summer and allowed his body to rest and gotten some consolidation in that bit, and I'd be pretty confident. The bit about Rashford that people don't know is he does have in a team where the standards are high, he raises he like raises to meet those standards. And maybe that's where the came of in a team like United where we needed him to, or the team needed him to be that permanent person that like that's always delivering 10 out of 10. In that culture he grew up in, maybe he has never had to do that. And in Barcelona, he will not have to do that. And because of he will not have to do that standard raise, setting himself, I'm kind of trusting or that you'd get a net positive, you get a net better performance than we've seen in the past few seasons. Yep.
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, I think there's no question he has a good first season. Where I worry for Barcelona is like if that contract is agreed on after that loan, it's just contract year Rashford from what we saw at Villa. I can't tell if it's contract year or healed from back injury Rashford, but like I think it's both. And I think if you guarantee him his contract, you only get like half of that. You only get half that energy. Mm-hmm. Players want their money, and Rashford knows like the next big deal of his career is on the line. Like how old is he? Because Garnacho is 21. He has a long time with that whole fight, but he's 27. This is it. Like this is it for him. He's not getting another 4 or 5 year deal at 30, 31. So that's going to be anywhere near what he can get now. And even if it's not with an option, I worry more if there's no option to buy. Then I fear Marcus Rashford at Barcelona this season. If there is an option to buy, I don't mind. I think, but it's kind of like a Man United signing almost. Like at that point, like because his wages are not cheap, is my understanding. Like he doesn't come cheap, Marcus Rashford. He wants the top of the market wages that honestly players even better than him have gotten. I don't know what he wants now, but yeah, that is interesting to hear. And I mean, I know it'll be a good environment for him. There's no question he'll be dangerous. It's just a question of how much, whether the contract is worth it. Barcelona are in financial turmoil, so those things on the margins matter more for them. Taking a swing on a player who demands like above market rate is not always as wise when you're Barcelona. I mean, you kind of want, like, if you could seal Nico Williams for 10 years, that's smarter than taking a swing on someone who's coming and leaving, maybe. But yeah, Joel, that was all super interesting. Thank you for enlightening us all on Carreras. I'm sure he's going to hit the ground running at Real Madrid. It's going to be fun. And, how about we announce quickly the things you're working on, what you're working on over at StatSwing to the audience before you get out of here?
Of course. First though, I saw there's a comment here. Someone said this guy is Nigerian. I am Nigerian actually. I grew up in Nigeria. I finished high school in Nigeria. I've been in Nigeria all my life. I've only moved over to the US in the past couple of years. I'm working on StatSwing with a co-founder, and essentially StatSwing is our sports data company. We think and we know we have some ideas around new models and just new ways to translate some of the more written or conceptual elements we've worked on in the past couple of years into data and provide value to clubs. So we are working on that. I guess maybe the edge or the big differential is we're looking to build a lot of fan-facing products and try and derive some more value from what happens if you empower fans with fans who have been watching, not all fans, but fans who've been watching their teams for 10 years, who know the ins and outs, who are pretty sensitized around the topics, or as essentially subject matter experts. What happens if you offer or give those fans some curated access to data or just information around what is happening in the industry? Can they make that jump? Can they also contribute in those manner? Can they make calls about what happens? So think about a forecasting platform for fans. Yep.
Nice. That's super interesting. So everyone definitely keep up with Joel on Twitter. His handle's over here. And just another brief announcement. Those of you who, I've teased that Joel and I are going to be working on something in this space before, very briefly, not to too many people. Those of you who follow me for my work in terms of nutrition and wellness space on Agartha, just an update. Agartha is going to be a supplement business. It's a supplement brand. As a result, we cannot host my various consulting offers there. And Joel himself has been interested in working directly and moving into a new space in terms of how we view the game and engage with the game, not just engaging with the games we watch on TV, but starting to think about sports as an individual. How can I get stronger, fitter, faster, help players win? How can I become a champion? And so, on that note, Joel and I will be working on a brand. We're coming out with a joint consulting brand very soon. All of you should stay tuned. It's been under development for some time. Very excited. A lot more announcements will be here. As far as the real deal, we will have plenty more content on this channel as well. I'm sure Joel will be back someday when we can do more crossovers like this. We will have more content next week. Make sure you like, subscribe, stay tuned, and we will be back. Thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you all. Cheers.